If you had told me, a shy, introverted girl from a small working class town in the middle of England, that one day I would grow up to be a speaker and trainer to billion-dollar companies, I would have laughed in your face. But I realized there are certain things that I've done in order to create these opportunities for myself. In this video, I'll be sharing the top 5 mindset tips that I had to really tap into in order to create more opportunities for myself. And be sure to stick around to the end of this video where I cover tip 5, because this is by far the most important tip. In case you're new here, my name is Marielle. I'm a speaker, a LinkedIn top voice, and a certified NLP and hypnotherapy coach. Essentially, what that means is that I'm qualified to help you shift those limiting beliefs that may be keeping you feeling stuck. So let's get into it. Tip 1 is to shift your mindset, because until we work on those stories, nothing is going to change. I grew up in a working class family where I was taught from early on that I must study and work very, very hard to achieve success. Now, if you're from an immigrant family, you may resonate with this too. Like, it's very common within immigrant families to just put your head down, work hard, and expect, to live the dream after working yourself hard into the ground. But I quickly realized, as I was working hard to climb the corporate ladder, that it just didn't resonate with me. A lot of the values that we're taught in corporate, I feel, are quite outdated. So I've had to unlearn quite a lot of those things. So for instance, I was often conditioned to believe that if I just worked hard, I would be successful. That often led to burnout. It often led to me feeling really quite overwhelmed a lot of the time, because working hard isn't enough. You need strategy. And I also had a lot of limiting beliefs around money that I really had to work hard on releasing in order to thrive and create more opportunities for myself. And I feel for those of us that are working in the corporate environment or who have ever worked in corporate, that really screws up your mindset when it comes to money, because in corporate, we are taught to trade our time for money. And I hate to break it to you, but this is one of the ways that messes up our money mindset. Because say, for instance, your working rate is $20 per hour. You will have, whether you recognize it or not, you will have a 20 per hour mindset. It will be very hard for you to fathom that actually you could earn $2,000 in an hour. You can earn $20,000 in an hour, right? It doesn't have to be $20 per hour just because that's what you're on right now. But when you start working on your money mindset and implementing the tips that I'm going to share with you in this video, you'll recognize that money is indeed infinite. We just have to shift our beliefs about money and what our earning potential is. We are living in an abundant universe, but depending on the environment that you are in, you may feel that resources are in scarce supply and that money is in scarce supply, because we are conditioned very early to develop our mindset around money. Next time you go on a walk outside, look at the trees, look at the leaves on the trees. There are millions of leaves on trees. And that's really how we want to be viewing abundance, right? Between you and I, we could not spend all the money that is in the world, right? So that's how we have to start thinking. It's really about asking yourself, how can I attract these opportunities to me so that I can have more, that I can have the job that I desire, or that I can have the clients that I want to work with? Do you believe that abundance is your birthright? Because I do. I believe that abundance is my birthright. I believe that nice things are flowing to me, that opportunities are flowing to me. But until you shift from that sort of mindset out of lack and scarcity into an abundant mindset, it becomes very hard for you to visualize anything else for yourself. So that is my first tip, is to really think about, what do you believe about money? My second tip is to focus on continuous learning. We get rewarded for the skills that we bring to the marketplace. We get rewarded for the skills that we bring to the marketplace. Someone could design a website and they would charge $50. Another graphic designer could design a pretty similar website and charge $5,000, right? What is the difference between a $50 web designer and a $5,000 web designer? The difference is their skill set and how they position themselves. Because when you begin to position yourselves as the market leader in your industry, you would elevate your brand and your positioning, and you're going to be able to charge so much more. So what skills can you develop that are relevant to your industry, that are going to help you stack on top of one another so you become much more valuable to your client? for me, for instance, as a speaker, I recognized that just being a speaker wasn't enough. So I spent the last decade building up my skill set so I could be much more valuable to the market. So things that I worked on, I attended Toastmasters for 1 year to be able to work on my public speaking skills, because I recognized that public speaking was a skill that we all need. And billionaire Warren Buffett famously said, by increasing your speaking skills, you become 50% more valuable to the marketplace, right? So what speaking skills is one of my skills that I worked on. I also worked on copywriting. While I was living in New York, I went to NYU. I made the company pay for it that I was at, and I attended a copywriting course for a month whereby I improved my copywriting skills. Another skill that I worked on is digital marketing, understanding how to create funnels for my business. So many different skills. I invested in LinkedIn training as well. So many sales, marketing. There are so many skills that I've invested in myself so I could become much more valuable to the marketplace. And more recently, I became certified in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnotherapy, which means in my workshops, my corporate talks that I deliver, I could go much deeper with the audience and my clients to help them essentially shift their limiting beliefs. Because guess what? It's not really about teaching the latest strategy. It's about really helping people shift their thinking so that they could ultimately shift their behavior. That is really what cultural change is about. It's about changing the way that people operate. So those are the skills that I'm able to bring to the marketplace, and they are so valuable to my corporate clients because they recognize that they need people who have broad range of skill sets. So that's my question to you, is to think about what skills can you develop so that you can become much more valuable and marketable to the market. Because in a 9 to 5, it's so easy to develop tunnel vision where you just focus and become so niche in terms of what you're doing that if you were to lose that job, for instance, will you still have marketable skills to the market? So think about that. What are the skills that you can develop so that you can increase your ability to solve bigger problems? And that leads me to my third tip, which is all about solving bigger problems. So for me, for instance, when I first started my business, I was freelancing. I was working in New York City, and I was I think I was making like $150 per hour, which is pretty good money. I was working for global accountancy firms doing freelance projects for them. But it was very up and down because there was no steady stream of income. But I recognized that I had to really keep on putting myself out there and getting clients. And during that time, I recognized freelancing is hard work because it's literally you trading your time for money. And that's when I started thinking, actually, I could solve much bigger problems. And if I could solve bigger problems, I could charge much more for the service that I offer. So I started freelancing, and then I started doing one-to-one coaching for entrepreneurs. But the thing with working with entrepreneurs that I found is that sometimes, they have cycles, right? So the sort of entrepreneurs that I was working with, I was charging $97 to create a membership site. So imagine $97 is not much money to feed yourself and fund the sort of life that you want to create. And then I recognized, actually, if I could change the client and the problem that I solve, I will be able to charge so much more. So I went from freelancing to coaching to being a speaker. And that essentially 10x my income. And now I charge plus upwards of 12,000 per workshop, right? So I've essentially been able to increase my income simply by changing who my target audience is, right? So think about this. I remember Alex Hormozy famously said, solve wealthy people's problems, they pay better. And it's so true. Solve wealthy people's problems, they pay better. So I would encourage you to think about, who is your ideal client and can they afford to pay you, right? Because for me, I recognize, as much as I love working with startup entrepreneurs, they don't always have the budget to pay me. And this is why being very clear on what your skills are is going to help you, right? So with the corporate companies I work for, I solve problems, million-dollar problems such as retention, productivity, low engagement, low morale. All of these things are C-suite issues. These are things that the board level in any company would want to solve. because they recognize that their people are driving the company forward. And if you've got people with low morale, that's going to impact their productivity, that's going to impact the general culture of the company. So these are million-dollar problems that I solve in my work. So think about what problems can you solve? And the bigger the problems that you solve, the more value you're going to bring to the market, which in turn is going to impact the income that you generate. Tip 4 is to surround yourself in luxury. Now, this may be triggering to some people, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you want to live an abundant lifestyle, start acting like it. Act as if. You need to trick your mind into believing what is possible for you. And you really need to feel into it because, as you know, we as humans are driven by emotion, not logic. And I very much still am on this journey. I would go to, rather than working from my local coffee shop that was, not very high vibe, I would go to London and I would go to like a really abundant hotel and work from there, because those luxury hotels evoke all of your senses. They smell amazing. They have beautiful interior. All of those things are going to help you feel and imagine what is possible for you. So even right now I'm in the Cayman Islands. This isn't my usual habitat, but I'm in a lovely hotel right now. And initially I was thinking I would just stay in an Airbnb. It's going to be cheaper. But then I had to have a conversation with myself because I recognized that if I was just in an Airbnb, I wouldn't be able to meet people, and I'm by myself, right? So I wouldn't be able to meet people if I stayed in an Airbnb. I would be far away from the beach and I wouldn't have access to the gym. My health is important to me as well. So I really had to weigh up, was I just going to stay in an Airbnb for the sake of saving money, or would I put myself in a nicer environment so I could reap the benefits of being in that particular environment? Another thing that I love to do is to buy organic food for myself, because I see organic food as being super important now more than ever because of the way that the food supply is being modified, right? We're not getting the right nutrients that we used to. So just being really mindful of the food that we have access to is something that is really important for me. Like, I'm not somebody who has like a car or any of those things. I would much rather spend it on good food. And obviously it's up to you what you want to spend your money on. But for me, it's important for me to have access to healthy food, the best food that I can, working out, really looking after my body and things like that, because your environment really, really impacts you. I feel like many of us, especially if you're not from a wealthy background, I'm not from a wealthy background, we are conditioned to have a lack mindset. It's just something that we have to work on and release in order to create more for ourselves. So this leads me to tip 5, which is by far my favorite tip. And it is the most important tip. If you don't do anything from this video, this is at least one thing that I encourage you to do. And that is to work on your money story. Work on your money story. Did you know that we are programmed from age 7 to have limiting beliefs about money? Most of us are, right? Most of us are programmed to have a limiting belief about money. Unless, of course, you are somebody who is born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Well, I know that comes with its own challenges. It's not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but having money is going to help you in a lot of ways. But we all need to work on our money story. And if you've never done this, you're going to want to listen to this, because this is either helping you thrive or it's kind of running in the background. As I said, most of our thoughts are unconscious. Maybe growing up, you were told that money doesn't grow on trees. I know that I was told that money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. It's too expensive. So all of those things are running around in your subconscious mind, which, by the way, accounts to 95% of your thinking. 95% of our thinking is unconscious. That means that they are just running on repeat in the background. So that is the first thing, is to really work on your mindset around money, because we are indeed living in an abundant universe. So if you were told around the time that you were 7 that money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that, you have to have hand-me-downs from your siblings, all of those things are going to impact your mindset, and it may explain why you feel that money is in scarce supply. Money is not in scarce supply. What is in scarce supply is your current ability to think of an idea that's going to attract more income to you. So these are the things that I've really had to work on. So how do you work on your money story? Well, I want to leave you with some questions to reflect on. Think about, and you may want to grab a pen and paper and write this down because there's power in the pen. We are 42% more likely to achieve our goals just simply by writing down pen to paper, right? So my first question to you is, what were you told about money growing up? What were you told about money growing up? And if you could think back, if you want to close your eyes, meditate on this, think about what were you told about money growing up? Were you told that it doesn't grow on trees? Or maybe you're from a wealthy environment. Maybe that's had an impact on you too. I think back to when I was growing up, even in school, whereby wealthy people were kind of ridiculed and looked down upon. There was a program called Birds of a Feather in London, in the UK, that would come on the TV, and people would kind of mock people from Essex, which isn't very nice, but they would mock people from Essex because Essex people at the time had like the reputation of being really successful and having nice clothes and nice houses, and that was frowned upon. And it really got me thinking as I've gotten older, thinking, wow, why were successful people in the UK, why were they ridiculed? Why are they kind of looked down upon? So maybe you're somebody who believes that people with money are evil, or people who with money do bad things. Well, actually, I believe that people, if you have money or don't, it kind of just magnifies more of who you are more than anything. If you're somebody positive, you're going to do more positive things in the world. If you're negative, if you're not a very nice person, you're going to do more not very nice things if you have more money. So I believe it just magnifies more of who you are. But let me leave you with these questions to reflect on. So what were you told about money growing up? When you think of the word money, what's the first thing that comes to your head? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the word money? What would it look like? What would you do in your day-to-day job? Would you do the work that you're doing now if money was not an issue? Because that's going to help you understand if you are really operating from a space of expansion or lack. Would you do the work that you're doing now, today, if money was not an option? I know that I would. I love speaking and teaching and absolutely love the work that I do. What beliefs do you have around money? And I would encourage you to write down these thoughts and write down anything that's come up for you during this time that we've spent together, because the more curious that you can get about your money story, the more you are going to recognize that we are in an abundant universe, and it really is just about doing that deep inner work to really unlock any limiting beliefs that may be keeping you stuck right now. So I really hope that these tips have been helpful to you. Do let me know which of the tips have been most helpful. Perhaps working on your mindset around money, your abundance mindset around money, or maybe it was about the importance of building up your skill sets so that you can add more value to the marketplace. Or perhaps you recognize that you need to be solving bigger problems in your work and changing the clients that you work with so that you can make more and feel that you're making a bigger impact. Or maybe it was about surrounding yourself in luxury. Maybe you're going to take yourself to a fancy hotel and just buy yourself a lemonade and take in those surroundings. Or maybe you're going to invest in buying higher quality foods so that you can nourish your body more. And tip 5 was all about working on your money story. And this by far is the most important tip that I've shared, because until we do that deep inner work and get curious about our limiting beliefs that may be keeping us stuck when it comes to money, nothing's going to change. So that's my invitation to you, is to get curious and start doing that inner work so that you can really thrive and create the opportunities and the life that you desire. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you found this video insightful, that you've learned something new. Let me know which of the tips resonates most with you. And do make sure that you subscribe, because this is a growing community and I really appreciate you being here. See you next time.